Saul removed his hat and ran a hand through his grey hair pensively as Muldoon read the first two memos in one quick scan. When they were passed over, he put on his glasses and read more slowly in his own methodical and thoughtful way. Hold onto your hats. This is what they said. Illuminati Project Memo 1, 7/23, JM. The first reference I found is in Violence by Jacques Ellul, Seabury Press, New York, 1969. He says, pages 18 to 19, that the Illuminated Ones were founded by Joachim of Floris in the 11th century and originally taught a primitive Christian doctrine of poverty and equality, but later under the leadership of Fra Dolcino in the 15th century they became violent, plundered the rich and announced the imminent reign of the Spirit. In 1507, he concludes, they were vanquished by the forces of order, that is, an army commanded by the Bishop of Vercoy. He makes no mention of any Illuminati movement in earlier centuries or in more recent times. I'll have more later today. Pat. P.S. I found a little more about Joachim of Floris in the back files of the National Review. William Buckley and his cronies think Joachim is responsible for modern liberalism, socialism and communism. They've condemned him in fine theological language. He committed the heresy, they say, of immanentizing the Christian eschaton. Do you want me to look that up in a technical treatise on Thomism? I think it means bringing the end of the world closer, sort of. Illuminati Project Memo 2, 7/23, JM. My second source was more helpful. Akron Darrell, A History of Secret Societies, Citadel Press, New York, 1961. Darrell traces the Illuminati back to the 11th century also, but not to Joachim of Floris. He sees the origin in the Ismailian sect of Islam, also known as the Order of Assassins. They were vanquished in the 13th century, but later made a comeback with a new, less violent philosophy and eventually became the Ismailian sect of today, led by the Aga Khan. However, in the 16th century in Afghanistan, the Illuminated Ones, Roshinaya, picked up the original tactics of the Order of Assassins. They were wiped out by an alliance of the Moguls and Persians, pages 220 to 223. But the beginning of the 17th century saw the foundation of the Illuminated Ones of Spain, the Alumbrados, condemned by an edict of the Grand Inquisition in 1623. In 1654, the Illuminated Guerinettes came into public notice in France. And finally, the part you're most interested in. The Bavarian Illuminati was founded on May Day, 1776, in Ingolstadt, Bavaria, by Adam Weishaupt, a former Jesuit. Documents still extant show several points of resemblance between the German and Central Asian Illuminists, points that are hard to account for on grounds of pure coincidence, page 255. Weishaupt's Illuminati were suppressed by the Bavarian government in 1785. Darrell also mentions the Illuminati of Paris in the 1880s, but suggests it was simply a passing fad. He does not accept the notion that the Illuminati still exist today. This is beginning to look big. Why are we keeping the details from George? Pat. Saul and Muldoon exchanged glances.
Let's see the next one,
Saul said. He and Muldoon read together, Illuminati Project Memo 3, 7/24, J.M. The Encyclopaedia Britannica has little to say on the subject. 1966 edition, volume 11, Hallikar to Impala, page 1094. Illuminati. A short-lived movement of Republican free thought founded on May Day 1776 by Adam Weishaupt, professor of canon law at Ingolstadt and a former Jesuit. From 1778 onward, they began to make contact with various Masonic lodges, where, under the impulse of A. Knigger, QV, one of their chief converts, they often managed to gain a commanding position. The scheme itself had its attractions for literary men like Goethe and Herder, and even for the reigning dukes of Gotha and Weimar. The movement suffered from internal dissension, and was ultimately banned by an edict of the Bavarian government in 1785. Pat. Saul paused.
I'll make you a bet, Barney,
he said quietly.
The Joseph Malik who vanished is the J.M. these memos were written for.
Sure, Muldoon replied scornfully.
These Illuminati characters are still around and they got him. Honest to God, Saul, he added. I appreciate the way your mind usually pole vaults ahead of the facts, but you can ride a hunch just so far when you're starting from nothing. We're not starting from nothing,
Saul said softly.
Here's what we've got to start with. 1.
He held up a finger.
A building is bombed. 2.
Another finger.
An important executive disappeared 3 days before the bombing. Already there's an inference, or 2 inferences. Somebody got him, or else he knew something was coming for him and he ducked out. Now, look at the memos. Point 3.
He held up another finger.
A standard reference work. The Encyclopaedia Britannica seems to be wrong about when the Illuminati came into existence. They say 18th century Germany, but the other memos trace it back to, let's see, Spain in the 17th century, France in the 17th century, and then in the 11th century back to Italy, and halfway across the world to Afghanistan. So, we've got a second inference. If the Britannica is wrong about when the thing started, they may be wrong about when it ended. Now, put these 3 points and 2 inferences together, and the Illuminati got the editor and blew up his office. Nuts! I still say you're going too fast. Maybe I'm not going fast enough, Saul said. An organization that has existed for a couple of centuries minimum and kept its secrets pretty well hidden most of that time might be pretty strong by now.
He trailed off into silence and closed his eyes to concentrate. After a moment, he looked at the younger man with a searching glance. Muldoon had been thinking too.
I seen men land on the moon,
he said.
I seen students break into the administration offices and shit in the dean's wastebasket. I've even seen nuns in miniskirts. But this international conspiracy existing in secret for 800 years, it's like opening a door in your own house and finding James Bond and the President of the United States personally shooting it out with Fu Manchu and the 5 original Marx Brothers.